In this video, I'm just going to focus on some basic styles for my RollDice component, mainly around the button. It's pretty ugly right now. So I'll come back and do the animations and work on some logic in the next video. You can skip this one if you don't care about the CSS. It's nothing very React specific. So I'm going to begin by importing a file that doesn't exist. import./rolldice.css. And then I will copy that and make that file. And I'm going to put all my styles in there. But before I do that, I'm going to scroll down and give this div a class name of RollDice, just to match the rest of the component. Pretty standard way of naming it. Now I'm going to go into this component, or into my CSS for the component, and I'm going to focus on that button. So it's going to be RollDice and then button inside of that. I could just do button, but once again, if we had another button somewhere else, these styles would apply. So I'm just going to fill in a couple of things. So I'm going to give it a width of, I think, 15 EMs. I'm going to give it some padding, 1.5 EMs. I'm going to give it a border of 0 pixels. Right now there is a border, I'm just removing it. But I want a border radius of 10 pixels just to make it slightly rounded. Also, the text color should be white, and the background will be black. And instead of background, it's better to do background color. And I'll also give it some margin top, which will be 3 EMs. And let's just see if that's working. All right, so the button is displaying how I want it to display. I'm going to add a little hover effect as well. So I'm going to select RollDice, button, hover. And then not hover. When we hover over it, I want to change the background color. So background color should be dark slate blue. And I'm going to change the cursor to be pointer. So that just makes it clearer that you can click on it. See how it changes from this arrow, I guess is what it's called, to the pointer icon. Okay, now I want to get these off of the same line. So I'm going to use some flexbox to help me. I'm going to make the entire RollDice container. So that's the div that everything is in. I'm going to give it a display of flex. I'm going to give it flex flow of column no wrap. And I'm going to give it a minimum height of 100 view height, VH. But now we end up with this, which is not quite ideal. So I'm going to wrap these in another div and put them together. And then I'm going to align this to the middle. So let's first wrap the RollDice, or the individual dice. So there's 2 die right there, another div, and this one, class name, let's go with RollDice container maybe? Something like that. So now we have this container for those 2 dice. Gosh, this is tripping me up. And then over here, I'll select that, RollDice container. And I'm going to set their display, or its display, to flex as well. And then justify content center. So I'm using 2 flex boxes here, and align content center. And you'll see we now end up with those 2 items center aligned. Finally, I'm going to work on that button. And that button is really simple. I'm just going to say align self to the center. So that's part of Flexbox. Now everything is aligned nice in the middle. All right, so now we end up with this. Nice and simple. 2 of our dice, and then we click, we have this hover effect. Awesome. We're going to now work on the animation in the next video, because right now it's quite abrupt and it's just not a good experience. It's still not going to be a great experience, but the animation will make it a little better, a little more polished.